in chapter 17, A Sluggish Memory, so they're about to go back to Hogwarts. It's past the New Year's, and Mrs. Weasley's distraught because, they're going back, and she's all sad and everything. But they leave through the fireplace, the flue powder, because that is the most secure way for them to get back. So all the Hogwarts kids are coming back through flue powder. And so they get back through Professor McGonagall's office, and they go on to back to Gryffindor Hall, and they run into Hermione, who is asked how the Christmas went. Ron went to enter first, and she cut him off immediately and said, um, "I've got something to tell you." And she just starts going. And so Harry and her discuss the events that Harry overheard. And this seemed interesting to Hermione. Hermione said exactly what Harry was thinking she was going to say, and that it's not like enough concrete evidence to assume that Malfoy is up to something. But then Harry mentions that he did, when they were talking about Lupin as well, that he mentioned Greyback. Hermione recognized Greyback immediately and was like, Malfoy said that name when he was in Diagon Alley. And then Harry was like, so you see? He was like, so you see, Malfoy is up to something. And she's like, yes, it's suspicious, but we can't go too far into it. And then she also gave Harry his note, letting him know that his next lesson with Dumbledore was going to be the following night. And so they went into Gryffindor Hall, and Lavender and Ron, said hello to each other. And at the same time, I think the next day, there was a message out for the apparition signups to learn how to do apparitions. So if you're 17, or you're gonna be 17 by before the next year started, then you can sign up. So Harry, Ron, and Hermione all signed up, and they were talking about apparition because only one that apparated so far is Harry. Now he hasn't done it himself, but he had been along for the ride with Dumbledore, so he knows how it feels. And so they were all asking him. Ron was kind of boasting him up a little bit, saying, Harry knows how to do this, and he knows how it feels. So Harry was explaining how it feels for like pretty much the whole day to people that were asking, and he was just saying how comfortable he felt during it, and that it wasn't like amazing, but since everyone was so excited to be able to apparate, even though they can't apparate on Hogwarts, but when they get home and stuff, they can apparate everywhere. And then the time for Harry's lesson with Dumbledore came up, and he let Dumbledore know everything that he talked about, or that he listened in on, and Dumbledore had the same kind of reaction, actually kind of a lesser reaction. He's like, okay. He kind of dismissed it, and Harry was like, should we still trust Snape? And Dumbledore's like, we already talked about this. There's no reason for me not to trust Snape. And Harry he's kind of mad that Dumbledore reacted like this. And they had talked about Rufus, the minister, and their conversation, how that went. And then he said, let's just get into these lessons, basically. And so they said there was going to be two memories they were going into. One memory was of Morphin. And so they talked about Voldemort and his past, and how he was at Hogwarts. And he wasn't really he didn't stick out too much at Hogwarts. He had a bunch of friends. He didn't care for them, but these people kind of formed themselves around Voldemort, or I guess Tom Riddle, because of how he was, and people clung to him. And then it was the same people that were his first Death Eaters at Hogwarts. So Dumbledore's memories doesn't have too many memories of Tom at Hogwarts, other than when they opened the Chamber of Secrets. Nothing else crazy happened while he was at Hogwarts. There were a couple bullying incidents, but nothing too crazy. And as they went on, Tom was interested in his lineage. Like, kept looking for his dad, evidence of his dad at Hogwarts, and he realized his dad never went to Hogwarts. And he's starting to put two and two together, and then realized maybe it was his mom that was had magic. So, but he didn't think that because of the way she died. And in the memory, he goes back to the house, the same house, House of Gaunt, and there Tom walks in and he's gonna speak with Morphin, who's all grown up, still has the same knife and wand that he's brandishing, and they speak. So they talk about, they talk in snake language, Pashatang, and he's like, "Oh wait, you speak this language?" So that threw him off at first, and then he walked in, and Morphin went on about me. He looks just like his dad, and Voldemort did not say, "Yeah, that's my father." He didn't say that at all. He just kind of listened, and then Morphin was talking about his mother and then how much he hates Muggles, and then the lights went out, and Dumbledore let Harry know that this is all that Morphin remembers from this encounter. Because then after that night, or after that encounter, then Voldemort's dad, his grandpa, and grandma were all murdered, and Morphin was the person arrested, and he had no memory of it, but he admitted to it, but he had no memory of doing it. So Voldemort killed him inadvertently through Morphin somehow, probably with a curse. And then the second memory they went into was Slughorn's memory. Now this memory was in Slughorn's office, I believe, and there was a bunch of students around, Voldemort being one of them, and then a couple of Voldemort's future Death Eaters being in the classroom as well. And he was having one of his parties, but they were just kind of chilling, eating candies, and then everyone left, and because there was like late hours, and then Voldemort stood behind, and there were a couple flashes of fog, so that threw Harry off. He's like, "What's going on here?" And then Voldemort asked about Horcruxes, and at the mention of Horcruxes, Slughorn was like, "No, don't ask me about that again." And he kind of just like sent Voldemort out of the room. Said, "Don't ask me about that again." And then Dumbledore explained to Harry that those foggy moments are because Slughorn tampered with the memory himself, because he wanted himself to be seen in a good light. And he gives Harry an assignment, so like a homework assignment, basically, to persuade Slughorn to give him the real memory so they know exactly what happened at that moment and what happened in the further version of that conversation, because it made Slughorn very, very angry. And yeah, what Voldemort was asking about was very interesting. So that was the assignment that Dumbledore gave Harry. He mentioned that the second memory was probably the most important piece of information that Harry and him would observe. So Harry was confused on why it was like a short memory, but he was like wondering why this was so important.